Well, good morning, everybody. Jeff Slakey here on Daybreak. I have a great guest in studio today to talk about a program that's been going on around the area for many months now. It was Oyster Fest, where I was up there walking around getting our banners ready to go for Oyster Fest when Jim Morrell from Peninsula Credit Union pulled me to the side and says, Jeff, I got to tell you about this thing that's going to be coming to the community, and I really think that you would be a good portion of this. It's the Rural Community Leadership Program that cultivates leaders and helps communities thrive. It's presented by RDI, and Gary Stewart is sitting with me today. Morning, Gary.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming on with me to talk about this. And it has been since early November of last year, the first time we all met as a cohort, as we like to call it, for the kickoff event. And since November, the group has met a handful of times. And in addition to the leadership skills that you are presenting to us and teaching us those skills, there's also a component where eventually folks in the community are going to see a project that we came up with and we think is really going to help the community, and this is a years into the future. I mean, this is going to be a long-standing thing. First things first, talk to me about RDI, the Rural Development Initiative, how you got involved, and what is kind of the mission statement.
Well, for Rural Development Initiatives, RDI, we started in Oregon actually as part of what was then the State Department of Commerce over 25 years ago, because there was a thing called the spotted owl that was having an impact on small rural and timber communities throughout Oregon. And when the result of the owl and cutbacks in logging meant mills started closing, the state became very concerned is how can we help those communities so that they can remain viable as communities? And so we started by going into those communities, helping them do some advanced planning, figuring out what they wanted to do. And we quickly learned that we can help them come up with a plan, but plans gathering dust on a shelf aren't going to give us any kind of a long-term advantage. And so we found ourselves immediately needing to help build the capacity of the folks in that community so that they could fulfill their own dreams. And that's where we actually got into leadership training back more than 25 years ago so that we could help those communities become successful.
When you first started out, how were you able to identify the players who you felt would be the catalysts for this in each community?
Well, it starts with the usual suspects who are the designated leaders in the community. But what became really clear was rather than having this as a top-down approach, which doesn't work in community, it was really a need to have it as a ground-up approach, which meant having people come throughout the community to become involved in finding out the vision and then actually carrying out the plans going forward. So it was a matter of bringing in stakeholders, as we like to call them, from throughout the community, whether it's in education or housing or economic development, the faith community, because all of those communities were impacted when mills closed, right, in terms of meeting the needs of folks as they were trying to figure out, okay, what do we do now? And it was important to just look outside the usual circle of people, because building community is not the responsibility of those who are just the electeds in a community. It really is having a whole community buy-in.
One of the things that we do, and I briefly mentioned it, is that there is a class project at the end of this that we are working on, and we have been doing the initial planning stages of it and are moving rapidly to get this completed. But in addition to that, it's the leadership training, the conflict resolution, the public speaking, the group skills. Why did both of those things come together? I figure you could probably just do and come in and teach the leadership skills, how to speak in front of the public, how to conflict resolution, or you could just come in separately and say, let's do a project to get the community re-engaged, feeling good about themselves. So what is it about the two portions of that come together?
Well, there's a lot of processes that go along in terms of how do you effectively make decisions together as a group, and how do you learn to collaborate with others? How do you plan things so that it is a project that actually gets completed? But the format that we are working with is primarily we're going to introduce a lot of concepts to you that you can then take back to your own organization. It's not limited to just the success of the group that we put together in terms of carrying out that project. It's really what are the skills that you can take back to a Rotary or back to a church group or whatever organization that you're working in. Because the philosophy is if we can get both individuals having more confidence of getting involved and then also them making their respective organizations stronger, all of those coming together and collaborating builds a better community.
So for 25 years you've been doing this now, so you have to have a pretty good stable of data now.
We have a very good stable of data, and we've actually revised the program along the way also to stay current because when we started out, this thing called social media wasn't around. So there's a lot of things that have actually changed.
What are some of the successful projects that people may have heard about or passing through some of these small communities, seen some of these projects, and how has the communities built up around those projects?
Well, there have been a variety of projects. One of my favorites is, and you and I were talking about it a little bit earlier, is down in the Bay Area of Oregon, which is Coos Bay, North Bend, and Charleston. There are 3 communities with 3 different high schools, all within a short distance of each other, so there was always a lot of competition between the 2 of them. And that particular cohort, representing all 3 of the communities, decided we need to be able to work together and we need to have something more in common because we're all in this area trying to accomplish things. And rather than competing with each other, just thinking about how can we be more cooperative with each other and actually build up. And they chose a fun project of painting fire hydrants. And you go, why would you want to paint a fire hydrant? Isn't that the responsibility of the fire department? Well, they turned these into art projects. And so they got youth involved in terms of designing the painting of these fire hydrants. And that was their project. Well, the purpose of the project wasn't to paint fire hydrants. The purpose of the project was to have the 3 communities have something in common with each other. And it created new conversations and new levels of cooperation. So that was an example of a project that they worked on.
When it comes to rural communities, just like the starts in Oregon, based around the mills and the spotted owl, Mason County is not unique in those same respects. So how are the locations selected?
We tend to be looking for communities that are 30,000 or less in terms of the towns, but then when you get into the county areas, obviously the population goes up beyond that. But we're focusing on communities of place, if you will. It's rather than saying I'm from a suburb of Olympia.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I'm really from a community of place, which is Mason County. And within Mason County, one of the interesting opportunities that we found is how can we bring the whole county together? There's North County, there's South County, there's Central County. What are some things that we can do so the county itself is working together? And in many cases, it's just a matter of bringing people in and letting them meet other folks from the county and discovering, boy, we have more in common than we have different. And then how can we support each other in terms of success for the county going forward?
I've noticed in our cohort how prideful of the community everyone is. That is a topic of mind. The other main topic of mind is how to celebrate and accolade the youth of the community, which has a bit to do with our project, which people will start to hear about as the months progress. But when it comes to these cohorts that gather, are they similar in nature, very proud of their community and understanding that the kids in certain aspects are really the future here?
Absolutely. If there was a common theme in all of the communities that we've worked in, it's the importance of youth. And for many communities, it's like youth are our number one export because people leave. And what they want is for those youth to come back. It not necessarily stay the whole time, because maybe you need to go off and go to school, which doesn't hurt, or you start your career someplace, but giving them a reason to come back to the community. And we want youth to come back as young adults and feel welcome and supported when they come back and they start their own families. And so there's a lot based on the value of family within a community and supporting them. One of the things that we ask all of our folks to do that go through the program is go out and actually, as a piece of homework, go listen to your community, talk to folks that you know well, but also folks that you don't know very well, and compare the answers that you get to a series of questions and find out, well, is there a group of people out there that have a different view of the community than I do? And why are those differences? Or are there some common themes? And in the case of Mason County, as well as many, the notion of youth always came up as one of the themes that was so important, because it's more than just saying, hey, what would you change in our community? The third question that we ask that I think is the most important is, and what would you invest your time and resources in to make a difference for our community? And that's where youth always comes to the top.
You mentioned community partners, and we do have a lot of them. I want to make sure that we do thank the folks that have helped put this together. The Medina Foundation, the Community Foundation of South Puget Sound. Again, Jim Morrell from Peninsula Credit Union and Melanie Bacala from her State Farm office, heavily involved in the creation and bringing this up here. PUD, North Mason Chamber, the Shelton Mason County Chamber of Commerce, SPI, Sierra Pacific, Green Diamond, Local 3876 up in North Mason for the fire there, the EDC of Mason County, Taylor Shellfish, Skookum Rotary, the Olympic College Foundation, and the Kiwanis Club. So there is, I mean, right here, this is a wide swath of main and major players in the community. Is this the kind of community support you get in all the communities that you go to?
I have to say that this is unique to Mason County. We have in the past, when we were in Oregon, we had one foundation that provided all of the funding. But coming to Mason County and having that many organizations and individuals come together was really unique to this particular program. And for me, as having the opportunity to lead this group, I am seeing more of a community buy-in and a community spirit within the participants than I've ever seen in any other community. And it's an absolutely great model, but it's also a testament to Mason County in terms of folks that really do want to invest back into their community for the better for the future.
Our program ends in April. We have one more session left in April, and then we'll continue on with our group project. But is this the last that RDI will be in Mason County?
It is not. That's one of the exciting things, is that our commitment is for a minimum of a 3-year commitment of bringing these cohorts together within Mason County. And we'll actually start to recruit over the summer with the goal of launching another cohort with that kickoff session, maybe in near the middle to end of October. We want people to be able to recover from doing Oyster Fest.
Yeah, of course.
But our goal is to be doing another cohort starting this fall, and then continuing into the following spring, and then an opportunity for them to continue to do their project.
So you may be, before too long, solicited by a community member, a community leader, a friend of yours even, that say, you have got the skills that we think you would be beneficial in taking this leadership program. And I will say that I have enjoyed my time at RDI, all the classes that we've had, the programs, good information, and it's been fun to, I talk with a lot of the folks daily, weekly here on the radio with them, but to get to know them a little better off air, as it were, it's been really a nice experience to learn about these ways. And I know that we all look forward to our big project and continuing this forward. Gary Stewart from RDI here, and we'll continue to see him around the community and the good work that the Rural Development Initiatives does. And you can find out more, obviously, of course, online, and I'll put the links to this in the show notes when I post this, RDIINC.org. Gary, thanks for coming after the class and talking with me a little bit, and thanks for coming to do the class for us.
Great. Thanks, Jeff.